So, a good majority of people know who Cupid is if you've ever heard of Valentine's Day. Like, ever. But if you're imagining the little stereotypical baby with cute wings and a tiny diaper and stuff, I'm gonna just stop you right there. Because that is definitely not who I'm talking about. Because this is a love story and that would probably be illegal. There are a few different versions of Cupid, but the one I'll be using to tell this story is actually named Eros. Eros, literally translated, according to Psychology Today, is a sexual or passionate love, the type most akin to our modern construct of romantic love. We'll just ignore the other types of love that also allegedly exist, like agape, philia, and storge, who I'm not even sure have their own gods, because this is the story of Eros and Psyche! Yay! So, our story begins with this beautiful princess and her two sisters, the daughters of a king who leads a... hold on. Oh, okay. So her father leads a Grecian kingdom, which is a kingdom in ancient Greece. Cool, we all learned something. This beautiful princess is none other than Psyche, and the thing about Psyche's beauty is that she's even more beautiful than Aphrodite, the goddess of love, beauty, sex, and this tree, for some reason. So as a result of Psyche being so gorgeous, she is actually being worshipped instead of Aphrodite. That ain't good. So Aphrodite is petty and lazy too, I guess, because she ends up sending her son, Eros, down to deal with that problem. So Eros scoots down to Earth with 2 vials of potions, like you do in order to do your mother's bidding and ruin a girl's life. Typical Tuesday for the gods, I guess. Eros sprinkles the sleeping Psyche with a potion that's going to make all mortal men avoid her when it comes to marriage, which is actually a solid, devastating plan in my book. However, Eros is actually startled by Psyche's beauty when he sees her. So much so that he accidentally pricks himself with one of his own arrows, which can make anyone fall in love instantly. Eros apparently can't get in a good revenge plan with both of his sandals on. Now that Eros is super in love with Psyche, he feels really bad about the whole no man will be able to love her thing, so he sprinkles her with the other potion, which would provide her with joy in her life. So he's redeemed, I guess. Cool. True to the potion, although Psyche is still beautiful, no man wishes to marry her. Psyche isn't too happy about how both of her sisters are married already and she isn't, so she goes to Apollo's oracle and asks them if she'll ever get married. And the oracle says,
"Yeah, but no mortal man is gonna have you. There's actually a creature on top of the mountain that wants to marry you, so you might want to try that."
Thanks.
So Psyche goes to the mountain and just waits for something interesting to happen. And it does, actually. Zephyr, the god of the west wind, shows up and carries her to this awesome palace with invisible servants and her monster fiancé, who is invisible. Monster fiancé is invisible. Awesome. The monster basically tells her that she can never see him. Ever. But he's actually a sweet guy, so Psyche is fine with it. Psyche lives in luxury for a while before her sisters come to visit. And they are really jealous of what an awesome life she's living with her golden palace, invisible servants.
Is that a soda fountain?
Psyche's sisters start telling her not to forget that her husband isn't actually human, and that he's probably only fattening her up in order to eat her. They tell her that she should hide a lantern and a knife near her bed, so at night she can look to see if he's actually a monster and cut off his head if he is. Naturally, Psyche lets her curiosity get the best of her. So that night, Psyche, armed with the lamp and the knife, raises the lamp to his face and sees that he was not a monster fiancé, but actually a super hot fiancé, Eros himself. But a drop of burning oil from the lamp falls on Eros and wakes him up because ow, and flies out of the window because betrayal! Psyche jumps out after him, but since gravity is actually a thing, she falls to the ground and knocks herself out. What? When she wakes up, the palace has disappeared and she's pretty lost. Psyche goes to the temple of Aphrodite and prays for help, which was honestly a terrible decision because Aphrodite responds to her by giving her a couple of tasks to do. Just some little things, like sorting a pile of mixed grains into smaller separate piles in 24 hours. So while Psyche is basically wishing she was dead, Eros sends some ants to sort them out for her because he's basically forgiven her for the whole betrayal thing, but Aphrodite is kind of keeping him away from Psyche since she just wants to smack her around for being pretty. This is like a soap opera. So when Aphrodite comes back and sees that it's actually done, she throws a little fit, but then sends Psyche to another task. The second task is collecting gold fleece from some sheep. So Psyche is about to do the thing when suddenly a local river god pops up and says,
"Hey now, those sheep are really aggressive. They might kill you, so to be safe, you should collect the wool from those bushes over there."
She wisely takes the advice from the local, which is a sentence that should be heard more in modern-day media, and Aphrodite, even more ticked off than before, sends Psyche to the next task, which is to get a cup of water from the river Styx, which happens to be impossible given that it's a waterfall. But this time an eagle flies down, carries the cup to the waterfall, and returns it full. Aphrodite, now thoroughly pissed, gives Psyche a box and tells her to go to hell. Well, the underworld is basically what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. Her mission for the fourth task is to go to Persephone, the queen of the underworld, ask her to put some of her beauty into the box, and then take it back to Aphrodite. So Psyche does the thing and meets Persephone, who is actually in a really healthy and happy relationship with Hades. But then she thinks to herself that since the box is literally full of the beauty of a goddess, she might use it to freshen herself up before meeting her fiancé. Curiosity gets the best of her again, and she opens the box only to find, oh, she's dead. Is that it? Oh, there's another page! Okay. Eros, seeing that Psyche is dead, flies down to the underworld, brings Psyche back to life, because that's apparently another one of his skills along with shooting arrows and talking to ants telepathically. Eros flies them both to Olympus and asks Zeus to marry them properly, and Zeus is like,
Ah, young love.
and he agrees. Zeus also gives Psyche ambrosia, which makes her into a goddess. Later, Eros and Psyche would have a daughter, who would be named Pleasure. You know, I think this is the only myth that involves Zeus and a pretty girl which doesn't end in Zeus cheating on his wife. It's surprisingly wholesome.